Welcome, Vault Dwellers. My name is Nacho Bidness, and there is Bob. We're going to do our second monthly update, and we're going to do it out of character again today. If you are here for roleplay, or if you're here for building that I have not showed off so far, sorry to disappoint. Maybe leave a like before you mosey on to another video. Otherwise, if you'd like to see some of the things that I have built so far in more detail and maybe discuss how I did some of those things, stick around. Let's get started. It's got a nice long video for you guys. While I wander over to the first thing, I wanted to thank Loco 4-Pack for setting up the challenge, having a lot of fun with it. Also wanted to call out some of the streamers that I know are builders in the challenge that stream. There's Quick Smoke and Draco Invictus, although Draco's stream is on hiatus for a little while. And On a Whim streams pretty much every day, I think. I was lucky enough to get to join her stream one day when I got off work early, and that was a ton of fun. JPic O'Death streams every Friday night, and a lot of the builders hang out at his stream, so if you're looking to interact with him or myself or any of the other builders, that is probably a good place to catch him. Without further ado, let's get started with the tour here. This is my cart that I showed off at the beginning of week 5. It's just a car chassis that still had some wheels on it. I've got it on an invisible rug so I can pillar glitch and group select and just kind of move it around the settlement to be in the backgrounds of various shots as I need it. This is the great big water purifier building, and this is really the heart and soul of my character here, because with me trying not to gain a lot of experience, Bob doesn't go into combat a lot, there are limited opportunities for looting, but with the excess water from the purifier, I can sell that and turn that into some building supplies for just about anything that I need. The decoration here is a little bit sparse, and it's actually going to have to get sparser. I have starting to run into frame rate drops and stuff, which means that I really need to start tearing stuff down before I start building any more. I did have an entire subplot based around water that I had to cut for time, so that's what that big water pipe there is for. It leads directly up to the water tower on the top of the purifier building. Unfortunately, with only 5 minutes a week, I have a lot of ideas that I end up having to cut for time, but that's okay. I have a notebook, and I just kind of keep those ideas, and as time allows in other future videos or maybe future challenges, maybe I'll get a chance to show some of those other ideas that I had to cut for time off. This is just the armory door from the castle that I have turned sideways using some tilt functions and slid in here with Place Anywhere. I was really tickled pink with how closely I was able to get that to fit. I just was not really expecting it to work out as well as it did. The control room here is the nerve center of the settlement, and I actually do use this. In fact, right now you can see I've got the turrets off and the molecular relay on. It does have a couple of modes. I've showed this panic switch off a number of times during the weekly videos, and if you're interested in how to do that, or how to remote control an arena to do a bunch of different things just by smashing a single button or any other number of things, I did a tutorial a long time ago called Smarter Power Arena Tutorial 2, and that showed how to make a remote control system for your settlement. If you're interested in doing something like that, take a look at that video. I've also got it in action in my Murkwater 2 video. That is one of the first videos on my channel, so I like to think I've come a long way as a builder since then, but I'll let you judge for yourself. The generators, I could build more. I've got plenty of resources. Bob is rich. He's got like 40,000 caps, and I don't even know how much resources. But it's more fun to roleplay that power is a problem. I've actually completed the Vault-Tec DLC, and you can do that without gaining any experience if you're looking to do that, and without spending any time, by basically in the very first conversation with the Overseer, telling her to go to hell, and she walks out, and you have now unlocked everything from the Vault-Tec DLC.
Hope you realize.
And so that's what I did. I am using some of that stuff, and we'll show that a little bit later. But it also means that I could totally build bigger generators, but it's just more dramatic if I don't. The bathrooms here are another thing that are going to have to be stripped out because they don't contribute anything. I'll clean out the interiors here and remove the decorations and just leave the shell of the building on the outside, and when I'm walking around the settlement you won't even know that it's completely empty. Same thing with the showers over here that were the start of week 6. Just can't support having something that is taking that many processor cycles and not actually contributing anything to future videos. Another thing that I'm trying to do to try and help with my size bar and frame rate troubles is, as I build new homes for people, they don't get decorated. I will walk past them and say, this person lives in that room up there, but we're not going to invade their privacy. And that's not because I really don't want to invade their privacy or because I don't have time. Well, I usually don't have time, but also just because I'm not decorating those rooms. I've decorated I don't know how many bedrooms in various builds, and I kind of feel like I don't have anything new or interesting to show when it comes to decorating living quarters. The bar itself, I was pleased with how that turned out. I especially enjoyed this patio area with this powered window. I would have liked to have put that on a timer, but that required a mod that actually added just a teeny tiny amount of power to the settlement, and within the rules of the challenge that would not be allowable. So I have to open and shut this shutter manually at different times of day or for different shots depending on what I'm wanting to show. The kegerator here, I try to, every video, have just one little thing that is just glitched together and a little unique and not in the game files, not something I found in mods. So that's where the cement mixer and the crane came from. This is some oxygen tanks that are standing in for CO2 tanks, a refrigerator, a magnifying glass that's scaled up, in a liquid nitrogen dispenser that is scaled way up to make the nozzle. The shelves over here were actually, these were a disappointment. I put these together using cinder blocks and pieces of wood. These are all individual pieces that I put together, and I was like so excited this is gonna be so cool. Like, I'm gonna have this red light in here and backlight the bottles, and it's gonna look awesome. And then I tried to put the first bottle in, and the darn thing didn't fit. I didn't make the shelves tall enough to put bottles in there, so that's why they're bare. They're bare because they're too dang short to put any bottles in. It's a little bit of an oversight on my part. I do have a level 3 shop here glitched in. It's actually level 4 because I've got Ron Staples, and I'm going to do my best to get all level 4 shops in this playthrough at this settlement. The karaoke stage here was, I thought, a real fun idea because it is so normal, right, for people to want to sing and dance. It doesn't matter how rich, how poor, wherever you are in the world, it's just universal that people like to sing and dance. And the way I figure it is, the apocalypse is over. People are starting to rebuild, And this is a thing that they would like to do, is they'd like to have a place to sing and dance. I didn't get enough time in the weekly video to really show this room or talk about it or anything. I just had like a 10 or 15 second run through where it said, I danced with a merchant guard the other night and I think she was into me, but, still not over Nora. And I thought that was too bad. I thought this room turned out really nice. I don't usually mess with floor textures, but I used a little floor texture here to kind of offset the actual dance floor itself. The Bunker Hill Trader Barn. This was another thing that was pretty fun to do, and I was really surprised at how tickled everyone was about the bounty board. I got more comments about that than anything else in that whole week's update. And the funny thing is that it took basically no time to do the bounty board, but I spent forever making that light blink, and now it's broken. Like, I don't even want to admit how long it took me to make that light blink. Not one comment. I guess it just shows to show that you can never really predict what is going to catch people's fancy. My trader outpost in here is always a little bit crowded. I think it's because I haven't built this in any other settlement, and so I will often have a situation like this where, see, there's the doctor, the armor guy, Carla, and Cricket. They're all here simultaneously. And that's kind of annoying, but I just haven't got around to building this at other settlements so that maybe we can kind of clear this place out a little bit. I left the shelves bare because I was thinking about how in Bunker Hill itself, the counter that is dedicated to those vendors is bare. This is not something I had time to show off in the weekly. This is a little loft space that I have above the trade caravans. They've got some clean pillows and clean sheets and some bunk beds up here. It's enough for one merchant and 2 guards, or I guess if all 4 merchants are in town, some of the guards are just going to have to sleep outside. That's all there is to it. I thought it'd be fun to have the idea that they come here, they trade, they get drunk at the bar, and then they've got to sleep it off before they move on the next morning. The next thing that I wanted to show here was Kellogg's autopsy room. I always thought it was strange in the main game that the first thing you do after you kill Kellogg is go loot a component out of his brain with no prompting whatsoever. Like, your character just like, oh, he's dead? Guess I better scoop out his brain. Like, it makes no sense. So I wanted to roleplay that a little bit of our character is desperate for clues and he's, looking for anything that he can find. So these are the little Institute decorations that you can pick up from Fort Hagen, Kellogg's pistol, and his outfit, along with his cybernetic pain inhibitor and limb actuator. And I just put them on the desk there like Bob was examining them, looking for clues to try and find his son. This is another room that I'm going to have to clear out. This one I'm not so sad about. Can you imagine what this would smell like after a couple weeks? That's why we've got the gas mask here. I did go to the level of detail, though, of I have taken the cap off of a skull and this capless skull, and we don't have brains, but we do have brain fungus. It's a good enough stand-in for me. Now, as far as week 7 went, I started that one off talking about the walls, and I doubt anybody's paying this close attention to the videos, but the walls started off way back here in the first couple of weeks, and then they just kind of slowly have marched their way across the settlement. And they have now reached the other side to the point where I feel like it could build a gate. I really hate building walls. I think it's boring. It takes a bunch of processor resources. If you don't use mods, they tend to get very repetitive or very time consuming, and the mods end up taking a lot of your frame rates away. So it's just kind of lose-lose, in my opinion, building walls. That's why I try to have the backs of my buildings actually turn into the walls. This might be easier to see actually from the outside. The back of the Bunker Hill Trader caravan is merged into a little bit of fencing here, which is merged into the bar, which is merged into the wall, and so on and so forth. And I do that so that I don't have to offset the buildings inside the settlement a little bit and lose some space that way, and also just to save on some processor cycles. The traps are actually slightly outside the build area, and that's why the line in that week about like, oh, should we hide these things? No, let them see them and, decide that they don't want trouble. Well, mostly it's because doing anything with this other than just plopping them down was kind of tough because I was working outside the build area. The Molotov thrower is just a pitching machine that I've loaded up with grenades. I actually showed off some other fun things you can do with that I did a power cycle torture machine right after Vault-Tec DLC came out, where when a settler would ride the cycle, the pitching machine would start throwing crap at him. So if that sounds amusing to you, go take a look at it. The gun check cage is mainly because I'm sick to death of building guard towers. I don't know how many guard towers I've built. I just wanted to have something to elevate the guard up there and add maybe just a few additional seconds of story or interest that was not just another dang guard tower. The junk shop was certainly the centerpiece. Well, I don't know, maybe the combination lock, but the junk shop was cool. I like this junk shop. Sushi Cat suggested that I should find a way to give the Vault-Tec rep some steak knives. I thought that was a hilarious idea. I hope I have time. I love the idea. I didn't use any OC Decorator in here. In fact, I don't use OC Decorator as a rule in this settlement because every time you put an item down with OC Decorator, you get a few experience points, and I didn't want that. I'm still going to try and get a complete playthrough on this character. And that means that I did this the old-fashioned way, more or less. I did use Place Anywhere as a way to lock the junk down, and there are a few junk items in here, like this baby carriage, and I think maybe that tricycle that are out of some mods. The counter here, I didn't like that there was glare on it, and I couldn't see what was going on inside there. So I shoved some lights inside so that you could see the merchandise, and then I hid the wires with the cash register and a vase. So take that for what it's worth. Maybe it's an idea that you can use in one of your own settlements. As far as the junkyard, I just wanted to go over the top. Everybody does junk shops. Everybody's got a cool junk shop build in their settlement. And it's like, okay, so how do I turn a junk shop up to 11? Well, I don't make a junk shop. I make a junkyard. And I mentioned something about, oh, this is organized, and the Vault-Tec rep understands it, but I don't. No, it's not organized. There's no, except for like this plumbing corner and the lumber yard over on this side. There is no rhyme or reason. I was just picking stuff out of mods and vanilla and plopping it down. I probably won't clear out the Vault-Tec rep's trailer here, because I might want to come in at some point at the end of the playthrough and show how many bobbleheads I got. Vault-Tec rep has got a little bunk bed here that is functional. I boarded up the windows and gave him some storage back underneath there. The swan boat on top, I was really pleased with how positively everybody responded to that little story beat, and it all kind of came out of, I put that down on top of there and thought, man, that was cool. Why the hell is there a boat on top of a trailer? Like, even the Vaultec rep would have no reason to do that. So it was that prank, quote unquote, on the Vaultec rep was simply me trying to find an in-game explanation for why the heck is there a boat on his trailer. I thought it looked neat, and then I had to figure out a reason for it. That chair back there, I just thought it looked kind of cool, tilted and shoved inside that other machine back there, and you probably didn't even notice it while I zipped up the stairs here in the weekly video. A lot of people have made much over getting the robot workbench unlocked, and I thought, okay, so how do I handle this? How do I do this in a way that I haven't seen the other builders in the challenge cover this, because I have got just enough of the Mechanist DLC to unlock this, and I did that because I needed to upgrade Codsworth. I need Codsworth to murder things for me so that I don't get experience points. And I thought about it and thought about it. I was like, man, I could build like a whole building and a story around it, and that is going to take a bunch of space in the settlement that I don't have. And then it hit me, I'm not going to say one darn word about this thing. So I ran up here during the weekly video and just said, there's a bunch of junk on the roof too, and then ran away. The combination lock that was the end of week 7 is something that I am really proud of. It is something that can be built in vanilla. I probably won't do a tutorial on it just because it's fairly complicated, and I joked in a comment to, I think, Sardeliac, that it's only like 8 switches, 2 delay, 2 on, 2 delay off, 8 logic gates, an interval switch, and a couple of Tesla counters, and a quitting time siren. It is a pretty cool lock. I have showed how to do other combination locks. This one is a little bit different. This one, it does matter what order you do everything in. Oh, and that insulated switch, that's out of a mod that makes these switches not radiate power. It still means that you can do this stuff in vanilla. It's just that I have such delicate lighting systems using the insulated stuff means that I don't accidentally break things while I am wiring. The combination here is 7113, so that's 1 through 4 and 5 through 8. And if I pull the wrong switch and jump out of the way, because these things might actually be fatal to me as low level as I am, the Tesla traps activate, the quitting time siren comes on. You can put that quitting time siren on an interval switch, by the way, and it just rings intermittently like that. If you don't put it on an interval switch, it just rings once and then it's done. So let's show the right way to run this. So I said that 7113. So if I pulled the wrong switch again, I've got it muted. I want to make sure it's actually going. Yeah, see? The quitting time siren goes off. It sounds an alarm. Let's go do this the right way. So here's 7, and I have to flick the switch both ways, and then there's 1, and there's another 1, and there is a 3. Hopefully you were able to hear that speaker go. It's very quiet. I wish that, and I've even actually got 3 of them stacked up to try and help make it louder. I wish that those speakers were, in fact, louder in-game. The spotlight in here casts some very strong shadows. Somebody was asking about, like, why can't we build something that casts shadows? And you can with mods, but you have to be careful with these things because they're very intense on the game engine, and if you use very many of them, you're going to get a lot of crashes. As far as the wiring in here, I did not even attempt to make this neat. I figured this is Bob's personal closet and nobody's in here, and it's actually better if he's the only one who can understand it. And to be honest, at this point, I'm not even sure I understand how this thing works. It took a long time to build. I don't have a way to lock this from the inside, but that's okay. It's just Bob comes in here and gets his armor and leaves and locks the door behind him. I do have a way to open the door from the inside because I did accidentally manage to lock myself in here at one point, because if I pulled that switch from here, the door would close and I'd be stuck. So no door opening mechanism from the inside except for a little intermittent one, and no way to lock it from the inside. But when I leave, if I hit the 7 button, that locks the door behind me. Probably one of the more interesting things that I've done. I struggle sometimes with things to do with power. I really like electrical and wiring, if that wasn't obvious by now, but it's difficult sometimes to find things to do with that electricity. There's tons of ways to turn things on and off, but not a lot of things to actually do with that power. So if you have any suggestions or challenges or ideas of things that might be fun for me to build on a video, I'd love to hear them in a comment. The vertibird here is clearly just out of a mod. This is just a settler that I dressed up in a Brotherhood of Steel uniform and kind of gave him this pilot outfit looking thing. He'll eventually get a new outfit and become part of the settlement and get a name other than Amazing Brotherhood Pilot. I am going to go ahead and hit this panic button and see how all the lights and everything are on here. And now when I hit this button, first my frame rates get crushed, but all the lights and everything get turned out. And just so that I actually make sure I do have enough power for the molecular relay up there, I am going to turn these lights off. I was really happy with how that video turned out, and unfortunately it's gotten dark, and I want to show this off in the daytime, so give me just a second. Alright, it is daylight again, and here we are at the molecular relay. Actually, one last thing. Sorry. I did build a barbershop, and I'm not going to cover that in more detail during a weekly. There are some additional buildings around here that I haven't covered in a weekly yet that I am going to show off. And, oh right, all the lights are off. And that's unfortunate. But hey, we'll just turn on our Pip-Boy light. So, got a barbershop here. This barber chair is unlocked once you complete the Vaultec DLC. And got some posters around showing some hairstyles. Got a sink here where the barber can come in and wash your hair. It still requires a bucket to fill the sink though. So yeah, molecular relay. I was tickled pink that Deacon was standing in the right spot when I rounded the corner. I had told him where I wanted him to stand, and he actually did it. So that Brotherhood of Steel guy in that video was not a statue or anything. That's why he was able to move, but it's just Deacon in disguise. I wanted to have all the wiring in this relay build be extremely neat, so I used a lot of conduit. I know that a lot of people probably look around my settlements and go like, Nacho, this is ridiculous. You've got to learn how to hide your wiring. And I say nuts to that, because I like having exposed wiring. I think it adds to the aesthetic, and it makes it easier to work on this stuff. When it's left exposed, I don't have to go dig it back out of the ground if I forgot to make a connection somewhere, or I break a light assignment or something. So we've used conduit here to try and make everything look nice and neat, and I really did have to direct all the settlement power here. I could have just built more generators, but that's not dramatic, that's not fun or cool or anything. Just using a 500 power Voltec super reactor from that DLC. It's more fun if we have to make a sacrifice of some kind to do this. So I do have 3 different power circuits in the settlement. I use these XOR gates as diodes. I wasn't kidding when I talked about using the small generators for testing. I actually did that as I was building. And using XOR gate as a diode means that I didn't accidentally bleed power back into circuits that I didn't necessarily want. Let's go ahead and power this guy up. And get that one. The console is clearly just some extra pieces that I added on because I thought just the console by itself was a tad boring. Added a radio since we're intercepting a radio signal. Didn't do a lot of junk decoration here because I figure that the Brotherhood is going to be an organization that puts his frickin' tools away. So didn't have a ton of time to build this. I've done 3 molecular relays for YouTube. The first one is one of my very earliest videos. It's embarrassingly bad, but since nobody watched it, I guess I don't have to be embarrassed. The second one was at Grey Garden. That was a fairly recent one, and I was really proud of that one. That's probably my favorite one. This one is a close second, even as simple as it is. The relay dish up here, I did have to... I added a little light down on the bottom just because I was running into some glitch problems, and I needed a little indicator to make sure the thing was actually getting power. I was having trouble with its animation, and that was kind of fun. I was able to just roleplay that. The klaxon lights are also, clearly out of the mod. They, I think, add some extra motion and excitement to the background of what's going on with this thing. There's the cement mixer that they used to pour this great big concrete foundation. And here is the relay power itself. This is a functional build, and when I'm done with the video here, I will cut to some gameplay footage of me actually using this thing to get into the Institute. And that's it. That is the monthly update. If you liked the video, be sure to hit the like button. If you want to see more, be sure and subscribe. There's still a month to go in the challenge. We're not done yet, and there is a lot more of Bob's story to see. And if you didn't like, please tell me why down in the comments so that I can try and do better next time. Until next time, my name is Nacho Bidness, and I'm saying it's a great big wasteland out there. Let's go have fun in it.
You have your assignment, soldier. Move out.
Hello.
Refrain from opening fire inside the Institute. It could jeopardize our entire mission.
Hey.
I've checked and rechecked everything. I think the signal interceptor's ready to go.
Let's do this.
All right. Head up onto...
I agree.
The device doesn't work from over there. You have to be on the platform. Let's see. Relays dialed in. Beam emitters warmed up. Everything looks green. Let me start scanning for the signal. Cross your fingers. I'm inputting the code now.
If any harm comes to...
There's a heck of a lot of interference and ghosting. It's gonna take a minute or 2 to lock in. By the way, this little trip you're taking is a heck of an opportunity to find out as much as we can about the Institute and what they're up to. I put a clever little program on this holotape that'll scan their network and download anything it finds. If you place it in any terminal down there, it'll do the rest. Bring it back to me and I'll see if I can make sense of whatever it found.
Move out.
Well, well. Looks like we have a winner. RF wave capture complete. Ramping the emitter. 60%, 80%. Emitter spiking but steady. All that's left is to throw the transmit switch. Transmitting in 3, 2,
Dr. Lee is a
1.
valuable asset.
Stay safe,
If any
soldier.
harm comes to her, I'm holding you personally responsible.